Welcome to the 16th, I think, part. Is it the 16th? It'll be the 16th, I think, yeah. Part on the XC restoration. This one, I haven't done a whole lot. I've had trouble with the dash, the printed circuit board on the back is sorted out. I've had issues with that, and I've got that 302 I've been messing around with, and my mother's not well at the moment, so I've been visiting her, so I haven't done a whole lot in this one. But I hope you still find it interesting. Take a look and see what you think, and I hope you enjoy it. I always keep this old Commodore very well serviced and maintained, but the floor mats have started to go through there. That's just dirty, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you look at the floor mat, because it's a manual car, it's all knackered, so I'll have to buy some new mats. But in the meantime, off the bottom of an Aldi shopping bag, and I'll just glue that there, and that'll protect that mat underneath. It's pretty dodgy, but it'll have to do until I can get some new mats. I want to get these before, I think these are the same as VF ones, I just want to get them before they stop making these sorts of things. Now I've been a bit slack, I haven't actually checked the operation of this clock, which I should really do. But one thing I'm a bit disappointed with is I've taken the lens out, and these just sort of, they're glued in around this sort of bezel, and it's all milky, it's horrible. And I've actually rubbed it down with 2000 grit paper and tried to buff it, and it's not brilliant how I've done it, but it didn't work anyway, so I'm just going to bang it back together quickly. They're just sort of glued in there, and that sort of fits in behind that bezel, if you know what I mean. But I do want something a little bit better than that, so I'm going to scatter around and see if I can find something. In the meantime, I'll just pop it back on, and but I'll only pop it back on with a couple of little dabs of glue, so then I can screw that back on. Well, I could have left that off anyway, but I pushed it from behind to make it easier. And then I can sort of put it in the car and check it, but it's not going to cut it really. I mean, I've got to have a car that's going to look pretty well new, and you know, we've got a horrible manky little lens, and you know, the clarity on the clock's beautiful, and then you sort of put that over and it's, oh, wrong way, you put that over and it's ruined. So yeah, not loving that. Now you can get replacement ones, but the problem is they're XB ones, I think, and I don't know how to get that off. There's a little spring-loaded knob for adjusting the time that sort of pushes in and engages with a slotted sort of thing on the hand and adjusts it, but I'm not sure how to get that off without ruining it. Starting to route some of this wiring for the courtesy lights through. I think on the Fairlane it was up there. I don't remember, I could have been through here. Whatever the case, I don't want it up there because it's going to be too close to the roof skin. So I'm just using this, and it's a bit of yellow tongue flooring, just the tongue part of it. You can just sort of feed it up. It's got a bit of a bend in it. I used to use that to check fuel levels in cars that the centres didn't work in properly, including the XW, before I replaced the gauge. So you can just find, just by doing that, and we can tape up, acts like a snare. And we've got to watch this. Now I'm just going to tape these quite close so they're sort of smooth at the forward edge so they don't catch on anything and tear them out. And we can just sort of tape that. Electricians use that in houses all the time, and just sort of draw it through. And I'm just going to, well, it's cut tape, I never tear it off with I'm just going to turn that end over so that I've got some hope of undoing it at the other end, because otherwise it'll sort of stick to the point where I can't get it off. Where did that go? We might need to wiggle it through a bit, like that, to and fro. And here we are at the other side. Cool. Can you see over here? Have a look. There we go. And now I can just sort of go back in there. It's dead easy to get through here. And of course, because we bent that over, we can just unwrap it. It's really easy, whereas it can be terribly problematic to get off when the plugs run damaged. And then I'll just feed that back through down here, because it's got to go down the C-pillar, and meet up through the light fitting. So That's easy, I can just route that through there. That drops down to connect with the boot loom, we're good to go. Oh, and there you have it. The first bit of electricity this car's had running through it, aside from welding, in I don't know how many years. It's finally got some juice running through it. So, having second thoughts about that sensor light, I might go for a standard one instead of the map reading lights. I can't find a lens for it. And also, it wasn't really a Falcon thing, like the seat runners, but we'll consider that as time goes by. But these map lights at the back need refurbishing, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the wiring integrity is fine, just for this simple circuit, so I'm pretty happy with that. Just enjoying a spot of the good old Yorkshire tea here. Beautiful. Now, this is the intermediate loom that goes between the front, where the dash is, down to the taillight loom, out of the ZH. And I'm not using that because I couldn't get mine out when I painted, so I had to mask it very, very carefully. So I'm not going with that. And this is the rear loom out of my car, and it is the original Fairmont GXL loom. All the plugs are very rusty, so I'm not sure that I'm going to use that. This is out of the Fairlane, this one here. And once again, you know, it's been messed with, but it's not too bad. I just wanted to check out the plug positions for the tail lights. The Fairlane also has these side marker lights that the Falcon doesn't have. And they're sort of put in later, if you know what I mean. It's the same basic loom, I think. I just want to stretch them out together and have a good look. But this one seems to have, well, it's got rust there, I suppose, but a lot of the sockets are in very good condition, like those, you know, they're very good. So straight off the bat, we're sort of better off. And of course, they've put the mandatory tow bar on. And my car did have a tow bar, but you can see here the sort of workmanship that's gone into this. And this is probably a 70s, 80s thing, I don't know, but we don't do Scotch locks. And I don't like tow bars on manual cars, I really don't. I would like to get an F100 or F150 with a big block, you know, those 460 cubic inch American things, and use that as a tow car, because the EL, the transmission's dicey, and it just puts a lot of stress on cars, on some cars I should say. They don't really design for it. So I'm just going to unwrap all this. Yeah, it's gross, this stuff. This is what, there was one gentleman actually, because I was using electrical tape, and he said manufacturers use a non-adhesive tape, or it's got a very light adhesive in it. They don't use this stuff for these reasons. It makes a heck of a mess, particularly when it's sort of fraught with heat and stuff like that. So I'm just going to take that off. Right, here are the two looms together. We've got the Fairmont one here, we've got the Fairlane one down there, and they look a bit different, but they're not the same thing. We have indicator, we have stop tail, and we have reverse down here. The Fairlane has an extra brake light sort of sewn into it. Now the conductors are all very similar length. They're probably the same, I would think. They all sort of line up. The sockets are lining up, even though they don't look like it. If you stretch them out, they're the same sort of thing. Number plate light, that sort of thing. So that's all good, that's all the same. And what they've done for the extra brake light, in all their wisdom, is just use a Falcon loom and spliced it in. So I'm going with the original Falcon loom after I've had a good look around. The Fairlane's sort of inner sockets are in better condition than the Falcon's were. And so I'm sort of cutting this to some sort of length that I can use. So taking the dodgy Falcon sockets out. And there's only one other socket and a reverse light socket on the Fairlane, which is better, but the actual condition of the Falcon loom's very good. And I just think it's going to be better doing it this way, because I get to keep the original loom, which is neither here nor there, it doesn't matter. But I'll put this is a good Fairlane loom, but now it's not going to be any good as a Fairlane, because I've taken the intermediate, or the second set of brake lights out, and I've also taken the side marker lights off. And so I'll solder it back together, whatever I take from it, and donate it to someone to use in a Falcon, because these looms are going to dry up. You can always make them, but it's just not the same, I guess. So this way I get to keep an original loom, someone else gets a second crack at a loom, and nothing gets thrown out. Well, the only thing that gets thrown out are two rusty light sockets, which can be replaced anyway, I think. But so I'm just going to solder these up. I looked at the other video I did, the last one, and I was a little bit disappointed because there's heaps of shots of my back in it. It's either my back or my gut. It's So it mustn't be too flattering to watch, but I do apologise for that. It's hard though when you're sort of by yourself and the kids, well, Charlie's at school, 2 of the kids are at school. But it's, I do apologise. So I try to do it, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. Can we see where the iron is? There we go, I'll just move that up a bit, there we go. So, even shots like this, where I'm always trying to think, maybe if I go to this side it's easy to see, but quite often you forget what you're doing, because when you're sort of talking and concentrating on a camera or whatever, to try and articulate things well and make it all make sense, if you forget what you're doing and you lose concentration, then of course you stand to wreck your work, which I've just not done terribly well. So, you know, if you get lots of shots of my stomach or my back, I unreservedly apologise. God, man. See, and the other thing is, when you do this, you make mistakes that you would never normally make. At least I do. So I'm not looking forward to this Friday. It's Geraldine Rate's funeral, and she was the one I paid tribute to in the last episode. I didn't say anything about her, and our families are very close actually, right back to the 70s, probably even a little bit before, because Mum had known her mother for a long, long time, and they're still very close now. Our parents are very close. I grew up with the younger brother Matthew, and we were really good friends, and as teenagers we kind of grew apart a bit. Matt had his own set of friends, I had mine, and we didn't see each other quite so frequently, but it's always lovely to see them. And I taught a lot of kids at my school that are friends of Matthew's kids, and I keep hearing about them, but I don't know his children terribly well. In fact, I don't even think I've met them. But I love seeing them, but I keep seeing them at awful times. Last saw him at his father, I think it was his father's funeral. Anyway, we're at this nightclub. This is about, it's over 20 years ago now, and Geraldine was there with her little sister Philippa, and I didn't know they were there. And I'd just come out of a relationship which I wasn't enjoying too much, so I was particularly jubilant and started to dance. And I looked over and they were just sort of staring at me. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. But I never thought I could dance anyway, so I was kind of alright with that. Well, anyway, Susie's sister, Jenny, was a friend of Geraldine's, and I didn't know that. So Suzanne knew her, my wife knew her independently of me anyway. So Geraldine goes, this is to Susie when I first met Susie. She said, how's your mechanic going? Susie goes, yeah, right. And mentioned my name, and she said, I know him. She said, but look, just don't watch him dance. So, I had a reputation for being a very, very second-rate dancer. So I am absolutely cool with that though, because I never thought I was any good at it. And you know what? It's good to have a laugh. And it's good to laugh at people as well sometimes. Now we live in this ultra politically correct society and you can't laugh at one another. And I think that's a shame in a way. I think, poking a bit of fun at each other is a good thing. It's cool. So we now have our 2 completed looms. We've got our Fairmont one, which is now purely falcon, which I'll roll up. I've got somebody in mind I might give this to. And they can toil away at cleaning up the sockets, but it's all completely converted to a falcon one now. And the greenest thing you can do is recycle, and that's what we've done. We've recycled the wiring loom. And we've got the other one, which is sitting just underneath. I'm going to tie this up. The other one, which is sitting underneath, which is all repaired and beautiful, and it's now going in the car. And this is the original one out of the car, I might add. I've ended up keeping this one, and I've done a little modification down here, so I can use either interior light loom. I can use the standard one. I can use the standard one, or I can use this one, which is designed for the map reading light. But I might get rid of that. I don't know if I will use the map light, so it'll come with its base plate and all that sort of stuff. So that's all done now, so that can go in the car. Radio wiring's a bit of a mess, but we're not too worried about that. I'm just going to hook up at earth like that. I've just got it down on the engine mount plate. We'll stick a few, stick some bolts in. We'll look at a bit of power. Look at some power. So, boot light's on. I just saw it. And the button is down here somewhere. And you can see, yep, that works really, really well. So that's cool. And of course, we tested these before. If I bridge these, we get interior lights on. Like that. Very, very nice. Okay. So, I tested this before actually, and really crap myself because I couldn't get the heater fan to go. And I thought to myself, struth, I actually forgot to test it. And I tested the other one and forgot that I hadn't tested this one. I just sort of swung it around with my finger and it felt good. But I had to have it right on. I did have the ignition switch on properly. So, oh look. So it's nice and drafty, that's cool. So that works. The other thing, which is a bit of the pièce de résistance, is this little ashtray has never been smoked in. There's no residue of anything there. So that's really, really cool as well. And of course the little map light we fixed up previously in another video is all good as well. The radio, that's just sort of sitting there, hasn't got its proper surround on yet, is, whoops, scratchy. Now that is a volume potentiometer issue. There's only one light, oh no, there's two. There's two. That's a volume potentiometer issue. And they're not even hard to fix. If you can find the right value, or the right value pot I should say, there's a gazillion different sizes and resistances, so that's easy to fix. The speaker is an aftermarket $19 polypropylene one with a little dual range chrome thing that acts as a tweeter, I guess. That's not important. I can drape some black fabric and sort of stick around like the original one to stop foreign bits and pieces vibrating around there. But I'm not too phased about that. The original speaker was toast in it, and I've decided I'm not going to go with 4-speaker stereo and all that sort of nonsense, so I'm not overly worried about the radio because I very rarely listen to radio in a car, and I do intend to have a huge amplifier in here with down the back sort of two nice big speakers sort of poking out the back there, so sort of similar to this, if you know what I mean. Like those sorts of things, and I think they'll provide more than enough of the nice noise. The clock does work. It is keeping time, even though it has a rather milky sort of look about it. The lights don't though, so that's not a big deal. I can sort of get around that later. But I've got to put the dash in and do a few more bits and pieces before I can continue. I've also got these two wiper motors, and sort of Ray gave me these and said just give back what you don't use. And they're both similar in condition, and again it's disconcerting that I've got another load of electroplating done and I've not taken, you know, a lid off or something like that to get sort of done as well. These are going to end up being sort of painted, although this one has a bit of its sort of nice stuff on the back, but I can always undo it and sort of turn that motor shell around 180 degrees, but I don't know that that's even particularly that good anyway, so I might just paint those, which is a shame. I don't like doing it. I'd sooner have a nicely sort of refurbished looking set of wiper motors, but whatever the case, I'm at a stage now where I can put those in and test them. Well, I've got my second and final lot of plating done, or back from the electro, I forgot to say the rubber, back from the electroplaters, and that's it. I'm not going to do any more after this. Look at this there, if you electroplate it with that clip in, I can take that out. I'm not going to do any more after this. And again, the quality is absolutely stunning. This is Warner's Metro Welding in Bayswater. And I just threw everything into the box. There's a bonnet catch. U-bolts for the, what's it called? Rear axle. Even the shackle things. And you'll see here, now that's for all sort of a rusty and corroded sort of surface. And these are the same. These were the rusty ones I originally found in the XC on the carpet, and they look really, really bad. Now, you wouldn't put them on looking like that, only if they were bright, but this is no fault of the plater. This is the way or the condition the thing was in, but this is perfect for repainting. You wouldn't have tried to rub it back before, it wouldn't have been worth it, but that has done wonders. So I can just put them away for another car. I'm not really phased about that. Springs come up beautifully, and springs are safe to electroplate provided they're not too fine. If they're too fine, you're playing with fire. So bootlatch. So I'll sort all this out, and interestingly, I didn't know what to do with these. These are the catches that go in the car, and the plastic was still on there, and I thought the acid would get rid of it, but it hasn't. And that was the one we cut down. So that was, I put that in the XW and since swapped it over. So I use that in the XE. So it's all good news. Clamps. I wanted to show you this, hang on. Clamps for the fuel filler, so now it looks nice and new. And also these, and these were off the XW, and I just chucked them in because, I mean, why wouldn't you? So with these things, for the tie rods, I mean, they look new. They're worth using. If the thread's the same, I will certainly use those again. And they were just heavy in the bottom of the box, calipers things, and you know what? I'm stoked with that. They look brand spanking new, and to think, the original Ford ones from 1969. You wouldn't think they come up that well. So I'm going to sort all through this stuff, and ooh, that's the handbrake lever. And so I'm just getting excited, and I'll come back on in a second. I'll just sort of go through this and see what's there and all that sort of stuff. So there we go. Well, I literally threw everything into this box. There's a few bits and pieces I've got to sort through here. It's a handbrake thing, which I hadn't noticed, has disc and drum on it. Whoops, disc and drum, they're marked there. I've already got one of those. There, the shackles, the things I was talking about before. That, of course, is the bonnet deck and the little lock. Caliper parts, rear caliper arms, there's exhaust manifold studs, sump and rock cover bolts. Even chucked that in. I threw everything into this box without any concern, really, for what it was. I just thought it'd be much more reasonable, and it turned out being far more reasonable than it would have been to clean them all. So they're the U-bolts, door catchers, you name it. They're the brackets for the power steering lines, everything. It's all here, so I'm very, very happy with that. Even got the armrest ones plated, so everything that was dirty or I couldn't be bothered cleaning, I just sort of chucked into a box and took it to get plated. Yum, licorice bullets. I love licorice bullets, but you can't eat them in large quantities, because if you do, it's going to be a case of do not pass go, do not collect $200. You're going to be running straight to the bathroom with a gushing bot. But we're not here to talk about bad diets or bowel movement. We're here to talk about XC Falcons, and in particular, rear bumper bars. Now, I picked this one up here for $30, and it looks pretty good. It's got a couple of little raised sections there where it's been backed into something soft and the studs have started to protrude through. But this is one that only has a single cutout for the exhaust. And of course, you can get away with a single exhaust on, say, an XD 351 manual, but not an XC. They look a lot better with a dual system. That chrome bumper sort of muscle car look is a lot better on this type of car. So I had intended to find a smashed up dual one and cut out and weld in the second archway, because when they're just cut they look bad. They have to sort of be folded under here like that. Now, I mentioned my plan to cut a second bumper bar in the last video, and a very kind gentleman, and I can't remember his name, mentioned that there was one on eBay currently for sale, and I picked up this one here, and of course it's a dual exhaust system one, which is really, really good. And what's even better is the chrome looks to be, I've just got a bit of car polish here. I'm just going to give it a quick skirmish and see if it cleans up. The chrome looks to be pretty good. I reckon that'll buff out really well. The only issue with this one, of course, and that's only very, very rough, is it's got the same sorts of issues here, which doesn't look too good. There's a little bit of a dent there, not much. And of course we've got the same thing this side, so it probably will need to be sent away and redone. But at the end of the day, this was a buy it now job on eBay for $200. And look, I am absolutely stoked. So thank you to the chap who made me aware of this, because as soon as I read the comment on YouTube, I went and clicked on buy it now. And again, just like the bonnet, it was a bad photograph, but that is going to serve our purpose for this car very, very nicely. So I've taken the ignition lock out, and you can see just how sloppy it is. The key just falls out in every position. Actually, it's rubbish. So I had quite a job getting it out. So I need to use it because I don't want to stick a screwdriver down there and louse anything up. So I'm just going to get rid of this retaining pin, and that's just a factor of putting in a very small pin, like a small Allen key, in the bottom hole of the steering column, and having the key on what's it called? Accessory, and it'll just pop out. But I'm going to just break out this spring. There it goes. And so the lock can just fall in and fall out. But at least then, while I'm doing all this testing, I can use the key just to turn it. But that's junk, that thing. I can't use that. It's had it. Well, I've got all the heater controls hooked up. I still have to do the demister switch because that was one that I broke. I've also disassembled all the steering column. It's a bit mucky and grubby, but I can still clean it up quite easily. And dropped it down because I want to refurbish a combination switch and this sort of stuff. So I'm sort of at the stage now to put the cluster in. I'm just a little bit concerned that the routing of the speedo cables are going to put too much duress on the back of the cluster itself. And these are quite fragile, particularly 1970s plastics and stuff like that. They can get quite brittle in their old age, but that's one sort of beauty of not having a windscreen. You can sort of get your head right up. Well, I've sort of got that sitting in now. I'll put a bit of power in and see what happens. Well, I've taken the dash cluster out again because there was a very fine amount of smoke just sort of filtering out of here like that off the top of the cluster. And what's happened is I've blown this track out here. I've got it somewhere lying around on this table. I've blown that track out of there. Where's the bit of copper? You can see a bit of it there. Sort of this stuff here. And so this has got very hot. That's where the smoke's come from. It stinks a little bit. And of course I'm spewing. Now I've double and triple checked cluster wiring, pin outs, all this sort of stuff, and I'm coming up a bit empty handed. So I've just soldered that little wire on there. Just put a bit of tape over there. It's not electrical tape, it's actually it's a very strong tape this. I don't know what it is. It's just a plastic tape. But it'll isolate that for now, just so we can put this back in and test it. Right, well, I've got the battery connected, and straight away I've noticed that the instrumentation lights are a lot brighter. And I remember XCs have incredibly good illumination, dash illumination. So, compared to XAs and Bs, that is. So, let's put that on. I've lost the light in there, stopped working. But I just want to feel around. I'm going to turn the camera off, but I just want to feel around behind there, just to make sure nothing's getting warm. Oh, here we go. Good. Well, we know those three gauges are operating. Not sure about the tack, not sure about this. A lot of the other warning lights aren't going because they need to obviously be hooked up properly. I can start putting the glove box in. I've just put that vent there for now. A lot of this stuff has to be detailed. If you can see behind there, I've got the little foam stuff there. The lighting's dreadful. So the glove box can go in now. And that's a sort of a strange arrangement here, because this is the padded glove box I got a while ago. And, I want to get it out of the other car. It's sort of going to get damaged and so forth, but it's got the hole there for the interior, or the glove box light, but it's got a grommet there. So I'd have thought a Falcon 500 would have had a grommet there, not a Fairmont, because they have an interior light which is here. And so that just clicks in its place. Somehow, like that. And I think it does. Going. That's it. And so once we plug that in, that should work. So I think I'm disconnecting the battery, but I'm going to put it in anyhow. And see if we can get the thing cracking. So I should be doing this through the day. My mother is in hospital at the moment. She had a fall. And so I'm doing whatever I can to do bits and pieces when I can. Here we go, that's connected. So we'll just see if that works now. And we've got to route up the wiring for the map light that sort of sits above it. So I'm just going to turn the power on now and see if that works. So I don't want to have to change the globe after. And so that works quite well. So if I close the door on the glove box, That's best way to get a flat battery if they're not adjusted properly too. So I'll just turn the power off now and we'll put it in. Just threaded that map light thing up. Just gonna, maybe if I open it might be a bit easier to get in. Sort of like that. And that one. It all looks pretty grotty at the moment, but it'll be alright once I've cleaned it. This is all stuff I've had in storage for a long time. That's what I want. And so I need to do what I can to use them up, so to speak, if you know what I mean. So, and this again is really, really brittle stuff. But it just means it's all got a bit of a hole to get into, and that way it keeps it out of harm's way, it doesn't get damaged, because it's got a little dent in it, in the vinyl. It's already starting to come out, and the more you have it lying around, the more inclined it's going to be to get damaged. I've got the glove box in, it's missing a screw there, and this is the great thing about a donor car, and Jason said this to me, he said it's amazing how much you get out of them. A little 1/4 inch fine thread. Oh, it's missing the nut, I think. Let's try and get it in. Oh, there we go. And you know, I never would have thought I'd use that, but I find myself needing bits and pieces from it. I even kept that piano hinge, which is just plastic. And sort of once that's all cleaned up, it's quite grotty at the moment, but now that's how it should be. So I can sort of toil with this map light now and try and get that in. That was the thing I was really proud with. The $1, I think it was $1.95. I got that really cheap fix, and I think that just sort of slides up into that cavity. Something like that. These are quite difficult to get in from memory. I've never done it once before. Why isn't the way? This is going to be. Oh, it's the switch. That my $1.95 switch is proving to be challenging to get in. But where there's a will, there is a way. So I'm just sort of fitting little bits and pieces in. Here's the little vent pipe. You can see where I've joined it there with the foam, and that sort of just sits in this area here. There we go. Quite fiddly to get in, particularly when you start putting foam around and that sort of thing. And look, this just, again, sort of little bits and pieces, baby steps. I've got to start concentrating on some of the bigger stuff for now. That if I can put these sorts of things in, and none of this, or at least where the cluster is concerned, the speedo's not connected. But it just means that I can again hang these things. Now these are known to be wrinkly, and this is absolutely pristine. The writing's good on it, there's no wrinkles in the padding. It is a brilliant, brilliant piece. And so that would just fit over there. And it's held in by 3 screws at the top, and of course the bezels for these 2 switches sort of hold it against the bottom. But that's something I'm very excited about putting in, so I'll just button that up for now. Check this thing out. 250 TV engine with that much bling on it. You got to be happy, mate.
I'm loving it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good result.
It is a great result, isn't it? It's just
That's about
perfect.
the 3rd time I've lifted the bonnet on it.
Is that?
Yeah.
God, I'd leave that up. I'd be sleeping outside looking at it. It just looks right, doesn't it? Interior.
Leave it all that. Fast.
No, yeah, some people like the ones we were talking about.
Yeah.
My goodness. So, is Dad going to stop and get you a meat pie with sauce on the way home that you can eat in the car?
I don't know.
No? What about a bit of Macca's? What about a McSlurry?
That's one thing we've said we haven't eaten in the car yet. So
Yeah, a McSlurry, and you can drop the staining M&Ms everywhere.
that's it. Yeah, no smoking, no drinking, no.
Well, you don't want him to smoke at his age.
No.
No, mate, that is a treasure. And of course, when Jason's XW is here, Mine gets the cover on it. No, that's brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
You got to be happy.
Very happy. Nice to drive too. So,
Yeah, they are. Mine's lovely.
It's just everything's so smooth and responsive. So.
It's doing a burnout. It's on a permit. It's looking good. Still having a bit of trouble fitting this instrument cluster. I've moved all the wiring behind this brace here. Now that is where the air conditioning duct would go in an air conditioning car, but I've sort of put it behind there. Can't see really well, can we? I've got a light in here. So I've put all the wiring behind there, so this whole area is just for the instrument cluster, and I'll bang the speedo cable up through here. But it was just tight to get in. I didn't like how tight it was. It felt a little bit too restricted for my liking, but we'll try that. And straight away, I'm trying to do this single-handedly, there's no resistance. It just fell back into place, which is how it's meant to be. And I'm sort of hoping that I don't get any more of these stupid electrical issues which have sort of dogged this and taken a long time to rectify. So, fingers crossed. But when we have electrical issues, we need to make sure that they're absolutely eradicated, because the last thing we need is a fire or anything like that. So I found evidence of that steering column frame member hitting, and I'm wondering if the Fairlane and Falcon dash frame is in fact a little bit different. Because it is possible. It's unlikely, but it is possible. So perhaps people have been on this road before. I'm not sure, but let's power it up and see what happens now. And so the first indication is going to be this fuse blowing, because I've gone through a couple of those while I've been trying to eradicate the problem. So I'll connect it up and see how she goes. Alright, here we go. We've got a problem though, because the lamp's on, light doesn't come on. We've got indicators. Oh, we've got indicators. What about indicators and lights? High beam. The only thing that spooks me a bit is when I turn that off, that should come on, and that's the brake fail. The headlight, the lights on light. So I've still got one or two little gremlins going on there, but I need to sort of figure that out before I button it all up. So I know for sure that we're all good. But the important thing is, pardon me, that fuse down there is still intact. Right, well that's on now with the ignition off. But the issue I've got is if I turn the ignition on, it goes out, which is what it's supposed to do. That's the indicator on. But when I turn the indicator off and turn it off, that thing's playing up. Now I wonder, see it's flashing? With the ignition off, I turn the indicator switch on, either direction, that sort of lights up the way it's meant to. And I'm wondering if it's because I've got the switch earthed properly. And a lot of problems like that are derived from earths, bad earths, so we need to have a look at that now. Well, I've got to apologise, it doesn't look much different from when the last time we saw it, so I'm going to leave it now. In the next chapter we'll stick the rear axle in and sort of put some wheels on the back just so I can move it around, and a few other bits and pieces depending on what comes up and what I can afford. Well, I really do need to apologise because the car doesn't look much different from the last time we saw it, but I've been plagued with wiring issues, which is only a short because I think the dash frame's different from a Fairlane to Falcon, I don't know, but I've modified it accordingly and now we're on the road to reassembly. So I'm going to leave it there. And the next one, we'll put the rear axle in and I'll just bang some wheels on the back so I can move the thing around because it's been sort of stuck up on stands here for a little while. I've been doing lots of work on the 302 and found this radiator. I think I'll put some 302 footage in this video so you can see what that was all about. And also mocked up this exhaust out of an engine pipe Ray gave me and that is the tailpipe off the XW. Bits of it sort of cut and welded. I just threw some paint over the weld to stop it rusting. And of course, even got the XW's original tail shaft there. Tail pipe there, I should say. So that looks a little bit Volkswagen Beetle. It's also, the regret I have is I should have cut this further back and then had that loop closer in. It would have looked much more compact. And I've also mounted it up on little, it's got little straps welded, so it's all nice and solid. So at the end of the day, drive safely, enjoy classic, and I'll see you later. Before you go though, have a look at the speedo. Haha, it jumps. I'm just spinning the cable behind here. And Neil in Queensland, look at those last 3 numbers, mate. Look at that. See ya.